What up? We are a day or two, well, depending when you watch this, it could be after. I was going to say away from UFC 224. Is it 4? 223. I don't know, man. 224. Look at that. It's right on my thing. Amanda and Raquel Pennington, Amanda Nunes, Raquel Pennington, they are in the main event. We talked about, earlier on the YouTube channel, we talked about Kelvin Gastelum and Jacare. That one's cool. Pretty stoked. Kelvin is one of these kind of young, fast-changing, fast-evolving guys. And this one, we're going to spend 5-10 minutes and spend a little thank you time to say thank you to Vitor Belfort and Lyoto Machida. I don't know how many more fights they'll have. Both, I think, say there are more fights.
Vitor's is the last in UFC, so he might go to Japan, but Lyoto's UFC.
So Vitor may go to Japan, yes. And by may, I think, let's not joke, let's not have unlimited jokes about TRT, but it's a different game over there, and it's, yeah.
Situation-wise for him to go
Yep, exactly. So maybe he'll end up there. Yep. But Vitor and Lyoto, mostly I want to thank them for their fights. You know, you get up into 40. I think Lyoto's over 40. How old's Vitor? I don't have it here. But they're both right around 40. I think Lyoto might be 41. Vitor's 41. Mark is pulling it up, and I think Lyoto's 41. So it's a great time in their career to fight, but it's also a great time for us to say thank you for your fights, you know? And it's also something that we can say for all these guys. Lyoto's only 39. Well, he looks good, you know? Yeah. Yeah, Chinzo is fighting, and he's older. But it's a good time to thank him because there's been a lot of fights. You know, I think there was some weird Lyoto stuff. I have UFC.com, which is not, I love you, like my boy Matt, and I love to contribute stuff for UFC.com. But when I'm looking up records, I'm usually, or any of that past stuff, I'm usually going to like the old school ones. This one gives you modern information, which is why it is a resource that way. But I'll go to Sherdog and pull up Vitor. And when you do, you see some pretty interesting stuff. For example, or not Vitor, I'm saying Lyoto. For example, I think a lot of people know he fought BJ Penn. You know? In Japan. Lyoto. I think a lot of people know he fought BJ Penn. But a lot of people don't know, I think there's a Forrest Griffin fight in there somewhere. You know? There's a win over Rich Franklin in December of 2003. Oh, no, that's who it was. I was looking up Rich Franklin because I'm meeting with him in Singapore when I go to visit One Championship. Like, his early fights are against real guys, too, because everybody was like, oh, shit, I'd like to fight this guy. He's a badass, but he's different, and it'd be really neat. So his first fight is a win over Kengo Watanabe in 2003, and my hardcores know Kengo Watanabe. A legend, a Lyoto Machida in his own right in Japan. I've got to call many of his fights in deep and spectacular, and that's fight number 1. Then he goes in to fight a young, rugged character by the name of Stephan Bonner in fight number 2. Then he fights somebody named Rich Franklin in fight number 3. This is who Lyoto Machida's been fighting his whole life. Then you get up into BJ Penn. Now, that was at heavyweight, and BJ was like, well, you know, I like to eat, and I think I can beat this karate guy. He beats BJ. By the way, he beat all these guys, just so you know. And then you've got Vernon Tiger White and all Tito Ortiz, you know, early UFC 2008. He beats everybody up until he becomes the UFC champion. Not a fucking loss in there. Just beats them all. And then beats Shogun. Close fight. It was a unanimous decision, but somebody scoring that fight didn't understand how leg kicks work, because that was one where you had the feeling, if I was scoring it, as I'm a Lyoto fan, and go back and watch it, it's a cool fight. I would have seen it the other way, but could be wrong in retrospect. And then the very next fight, Shogun was the only guy to finally get to his chin, and it had to happen eventually. eventually. Then you got Quentin Jackson, Randy Couture, John Jones, Ryan Bader, Dan Henderson, Phil Davis, Mark Munoz, Gegard Mousasi, Chris Weidman, Yoel Romero, Luke Rockhold, CB, etc., etc. Just fights the best. The best middleweights. Yeah. Best middleweights in the world, yes. And if he didn't fight Anderson Silva because they were close, but he fought Anderson Silva every day in the gym. Every day in the gym. And then you go, and so when you say thank you for these great fights, and you're really like appreciating these guys, you go to Vitor, and Vitor is fighting a guy named John Hess in 1996. Yeah, with shoes on. And then you're going into Tank Abbott in 1997, Randy Couture in Vanderlei Silva, Sakuraba, Gilbert Ivel, Heath Herring, Chuck Liddell, Marvin Eastman, Randy Couture, Tito Ortiz, Alistair Overeem in 2005. You know what I mean? That's 12 years ago, 13 years ago. Fought Alistair Overeem again in 2006. Like, no, I'm going to get him. Overeem won. Dan Henderson, Matt Lindland, Rich Franklin, Anderson Silva, Akiyama, Anthony Johnson, beat Anthony Johnson, John Jones, Michael Bisping, Luke Rockhold, Dan Henderson, Chris Weidman, Dan Henderson, Jacare, Gegard Mousasi, like the best of the best of the best of the best. Both of them.
And not even just the greats, like even up-and-comers like Calvin.
Yeah. Fighting the young guys too. Like the best of the best of the best. So do you slow down later? You can. It's common. It happens to us all eventually. But you're supposed to get smarter. And they do. Vitor, actually, I think there's a decision win in there in the last couple of years. Nate Marquardt, decision win. He hadn't I don't know if he'd ever had a decision win before that. Oh, yeah, he had 4 in his life ever. In 40 fights, 4 decision wins. But in the last number of years, if you go all the way back to 2007, every single fight that he fought in between was finished, either him or the other guy. Like, these are the best of the best. So, we can have a conversation about Lyoto Machida and about his game of karate and his game of drawing and his game of moving his feet in ways that you didn't understand. That conversation has to involve the reality that he was so interesting and he was so good. It took fucking years, but eventually people did learn how his game works. It took a long time. A long, long, long time. And a lot of research and a lot of brain power to figure out his game, how it works. Chris Weidman maybe had to, and he still got to Chris late in the fight, but maybe had among the better big picture ways to be able to get to him. So Lyoto just, according to the way some, people look at things, could just be like, well, they figured me out. But he didn't. He didn't think that way. That's not who Lyoto Machida is. He sees what you do and then sees your answers and figures out to find ways to penalize you for that. Right here on this YouTube channel, Kyoji Horiguchi, there's a 9-second knockout, and I did a 1-minute breakdown. And somebody was like, I just spent 1 minute on 9 seconds. Like, I got to spend an hour on it because the levels of how your beliefs are exploited by me, the martial arts master. I am not a martial arts master. But in this scenario, there are 2 people. Or let's change it so I don't have to say that. My beliefs are exploited by you, the martial arts master. The things that I believe, and people believe they have the answer to Lyoto Machida. And when people believe they have the answer to you, they study that answer and they make it the wrong answer. And that's the game. That's what Lyoto will try to do. Bounce in and out, draw you in, mystify you, misdirect you, lie to you, and catch you. Vitor, in this scenario in Brazil, I mean, if you're Vitor, you want to go back to what you do. Yeah, we're coming off a decision win, but that's not how we're going to fight. Certainly not how we're going to fight Lyoto Machida. We're going to close distance, and we're going to try to smash him. And we'll go back to one of these guys will end up getting finished. There's also odd pride somewhere here. I don't quite understand it. I don't know that anybody fully understands it, but between Anderson and Vitor, there's something. I don't know. Maybe somebody can let us know. And Lyoto and Vitor, I don't know the dynamic. Every culture is different. And we don't know the dynamic between the greats of the great there. But there is something at play here. Whether it's just simply pride or somebody feels slighted or disrespected, I don't know. But I think you see them go at each other. And Vitor has always done his best when he moved forward. Lyoto always did his best when he moved back and pulled you into that dead space. So it's a cool fight. And definitely look at, Vitor's pressure against Lyoto's footwork. Definitely. Look at that. Look for that. Watch for it. Wait for it. It's going to be killer. But don't forget to take the time to appreciate all of these guys' great fights and what they've done for fighting and what they've done for martial arts and what they've done for all of us who study it and enjoy it, and get lost in it sometimes. Thank you, Vitor Belfort and Lyoto Machida, for your brilliant fights. And if it's what you want, may you have many more. And enjoy the hostilities, my friends.